Good, thank you very much. I take it there is no request for a public right to speak, so we can pass to item 6, which is the finance reports, and maybe the who would like to introduce. I always have this quandary. I think it's Councillor O'Connor who usually takes the floor. So Councillor O'Connor, if you'd like to talk us through the reports, please.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I just wasn't sure if I was out of mute or not. Okay, so you've got the reports in front of you, and as per normal, you've got our bank reconciliations, which show how much money that we were holding at the 31st of March. Okay, so I think that's quite self-explanatory for everybody. Any problems with that at all, anybody? And then we've got our detailed receipts and payments reports, which you can see how much we've spent through the year. Now, this is our final report, and it actually reflects what we forecast in our town magazine. If you've all had a chance to have a look at our town magazine, in actual fact, you'll see that we actually reported the budget from last year to this year. We showed how much we compared with other parishes in the town magazine, and we also said what we were trying to forecast. So we actually came in on forecast. Luckily, we had most of the information in. The staff had worked very hard to make sure that we had, so the forecast was tight. You will see on the last page here that we were actually £2,735 overspent. This was because it included obviously the 17,000 that we had for our office move in total. We've also had money that was transferred to and from the emergency from the earmarked reserves. One of them was for £4,734, which paid for our election. If you remember that we had an election to pay, so we were holding some money into reserves for that, so we put that into the account to do it. And the other reason, we had some money for our grant for Westgate and Bloom, which we haven't all spent, and that was transferred into the reserves because we need to pull it back for next year. Okay, and obviously if we pulled that back, and we also had some stall money that was put back in that related to this year, which we may, for Westgate Day, which we may have to repay to people, which was £980. I think it was 980. So we had, so those ones, £890. So that all came to £9,422, which is income that we've put back into reserves ready to pull out for this year. So it kind of gave an overall looking figure that we were £7,423 overspent, which of course obviously included, but we didn't spend any of our contingency fund, which we would have normally spent through the year. So considering that we had the total cost of the for the office move, we had at fixed assets costs for over £4,000 for paying for legal costs for Thanet District Council, and obviously that money that's gone into reserves will be pulled back this year. It's just we can't show the income of it gaining this year, otherwise we would lose it for next year. So we need to push it back so that we can draw on it, as it's Westgate and Bloom and it's earmarked for a grant. So that was the overall figure that we came into. We decided not to pull more but down from, you know, from the earmarked reserves to cover that. We just said we take the loss and it will show it in the reflection, so it's a true reflection of what we've spent and what went spent through this year, which the auditor agreed and advised on.
Thank you very much. I think I'm right in saying that in local government finance, anything you don't spend at the end of the year, you have to put into reserves, don't you? You can't carry it over. There's no system like there is in other organisations for a simple carryover. You have to just balance the books by putting everything into reserves.
Yeah, if you're overspent, it goes into reserves. If you're underspent, it goes into the reserves. So it's part of the money that we've got. And if you look at the final bit, we've showed you what we've got in earmarked reserves. So altogether, we've got £46,865 at the end of the year that is for earmarked reserves. One of that is we had £124 for the lotto, which we collected. So that's to be put aside to spend on projects. It's not council money as such. We've got local plan support, which has been there for a couple of years, as we know, to be holding on to it. We have got 7,265 left for election money. So if we have an election next year, we've got enough money to cover for it. We've got 2,500 for discretionary powers, and that really is for things that, if anything over and above that comes in, we have got the money there. We have got 15,000, which is put aside for capital projects, which we haven't actually named as such, but we do have obviously the assets that are being transferred. So most of that will go on the transfer. And then you will see that we have got the 8,532, which is Westgate and Bloom, and the £890, which I've just said, which is the stalls money that may have to be returned. So it's all laid out in what we have in our reserves. Okay.
Thank you very much. Any questions on that? No? Well, can someone propose that we receive those reports? Yes, Councillor Wallin and Councillor Donaldson. So, is there anybody who wants to oppose the adoption of those reports? Anybody abstaining? No, thank you very much. So they're approved and adopted as submitted.
Thank you.
Yes, and thank you. I noticed Jill was saying in her report that the audit had passed quite smoothly, just a couple of things, and it's I think a tribute to the way that the finances are managed, that the two amber markings in the report were related to areas where all councils are having difficulties on the website and so on.
Yeah, we're very pleased with that, and we'll go into detail it in the next financial and general purpose meeting, obviously, to review that, you know, line by line. So, okay.
Good, thank you. Now, Westgate Day update. I've got some things to say on this, but I think I'll give the floor to Jill to report back as indicated on the agenda in relation to health and safety and things like that.
Thank you, Chairman. Okay, yes, so as we're aware, 18th of July is now only 10 weeks away, and sadly a lot of events have been cancelled that would have been held in June, July, and certainly even some now in August are being cancelled. Our health and safety consultant Paul Sand phoned me last week because he knows that we haven't officially taken the decision to cancel Westgate Day, but he's saying to me last week that we should definitely do that, because it just wouldn't be responsible in the current climate to go ahead with a large gathering. Certainly the residents that may not attend because they are still concerned about the situation with the virus, it would mean lots of additional social distancing measures and things. I mean, even the fun fair, for instance, he said to actually logistically manage that being disinfected on rides every time someone gets on and off. And that's even if the fun fair would contemplate coming, because they may be concerned that the income they're going to generate will be much reduced. So I think in a responsible situation as the town council, we ought to cancel the event for this year. So it's not something that is easily done, but I think it's the responsible approach for this year. And certainly I wouldn't want to hold an event that was, you know, half what it should be. I think we should cancel it and wait until next year, when hopefully everything will be in a much better improved situation. So that's what I would strongly recommend for this year. What we could do is that the people that have paid for stalls, because obviously we've got that income sat there, £890, we could suggest to the people that they might want to book ahead for 2021, because obviously if they paid £20, they might not be, too worried about reclaiming that if they're likely to pay it out in the autumn for next year. So I think that's something we can work on here in the office. Also, we could start already thinking about that, maybe September for next year, and get, make it bigger and better than what we're even planning for this year. And I just feel that we could use this time now to plan better for 2021. Does that sound?
Well, I think what we do for next year is really not for discussion at this evening's meeting, I would suggest. I think the main thing is to focus on whether we should just put all the plans we had for this year into a file. In my view, the fact that it seems unlikely, as we're looking at it from now, that there will be any or much relaxation of the rules on public gatherings means that all the things we had planned, like the fun fair and the stage and so on, aren't going to be viable. My own view is it would be a pity just to forget Westgate Day completely for this year. I did take it upon myself to contact Dawn Crouch and Graham Field in relation to the Heritage Centre and anything that they might be thinking of. Dawn has mentioned that they do have, or she has, I'm not quite sure, records of interviews that they carried out with elderly citizens starting in 2005, which aren't really being made much of. And I don't know if we can mark the year by making more use of these. But she did point out that next year will be the 150th anniversary of the opening of the station, which of course we had in mind in any case, but that will be a major event that will be the focus of our activities next year. So anyway, I invite any comments from you. I'm just seeing that on the group chat. There are no particular comments on this point. Yes, Councillor Scott. Matthew. Can't hear you.
There you go. No, I'm trying to work it all out. There you go. Can everyone hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, excellent. Okay. Yeah. It was just obviously disappointing to hear. Obviously, it is reasons being due to the pandemic. Why we are looking to cancel the Westgate Day. I'm just wondering, are we looking to devise a sort of an announcement that could potentially gear people up for next year, but also just let them know factually that the reasons why we're not looking to pursue the Westgate Day going forward? Is that something we're going to be looking to do?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll liaise with you on that, because obviously you've been working hard with all the PR and marketing behind the scenes. So absolutely, we'll work together on that, and I won't do it without, liaising with you first.
Okay, no, that's great. Excellent. Many thanks.
Okay. Anything else? So, Councillor Dr. Hannah Scott. Were you asking for the floor?
Yes, please. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's the right thing to do to cancel it. I don't know if anybody is creative enough to have a little think about what perhaps we could do instead of it. Obviously, we can't have public gatherings, but is there a way of having some, making something or doing something or having some kind of presentation, maybe even something that we stick online that is a presentation for people to click on and look at. I don't know. But just, you know, there might be some creative people out there that might be able to make a video like what we're doing now. We could film something quite fun and each have like a little line to speak, you know, giving a message to the residents or something like that with regards to the coronavirus, or with regards to, you know, the amazing community feel that we've had, especially during the coronavirus period. I don't know if there's something that we could do instead that's quite creative and brings people together. It's just a thought.
Okay, yeah, I'm happy to hear suggestions after the meeting if you want to.
Okay. Well, I take, do we need to vote on the cancellation, or just note that it won't be happening? I know you like having votes on it.
No, it was really just to give everybody an update and report that was the intention, and it was really to gauge what your opinion was on that decision. And I think we can take from here that there is a consensus that it is the, you know, the sensible and responsible thing to do.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Yes, Councillor Wallen, did you want to speak? No. So the next item is renewal of membership for CALC and NALC. We use these two organisations quite frequently, but I don't know, Jill, did you want to say anything in particular?
Only that obviously those of you that have been on the council now for a while will know how important CALC and NALC are to us. They are the foundation really of local councils, and they give us such support and huge advice in certain situations that we just couldn't do without. We don't have that expertise within the town council. So I think they're very important, and you know, although I know the fees increased a little bit this year because they have an additional member of staff, I do still think that it's tremendous value for money when you think of the amount of times we do call upon them. And even in the virus, you know, this situation now, they've been a huge support again. Thank you.
Anybody wish to comment? Yes, Councillor O'Connor.
These, you know, the publication that's been coming out, you know, from all through this coronavirus, and all the information that they've been gathering, you know, in itself is just showing you how much that they've got and how much they're keeping on the ball of things. So I think it's a good support for Jill and her team.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Cornford.
Yes, I think it's invaluable that we're members, and I propose that we join up again for 2020-21.
Thank you. Anyone second that? Ooh, lots of hands up. Councillor Green, why not?
Okay.
So anybody against? Anyone abstaining? Okay, thank you. That's approved unanimously. Now, we pass to the update on the local plan, which is not terribly good news, but I'll hand over to Councillor Dr. Scott to talk us through that.
Okay, I sent everyone a document. I'm going to share it now as well. Let's have a look. Slightly amended policy. Let's see if I can share it. Okay. So can you see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, start at the top. Okay, so it basically says again, there's 2,000 houses, so there you go. The land is allocated for up to 2,000 new dwellings. This is an important new sentence. It changes from a maximum density of 35 dwellings per hectare to an average, which is quite tricky because what's actually going to happen, and what you can see in the master plan that they presented was that there's going to be low density in the Garlinge area, very low density, and then quite high density in Westgate. So we really need to keep an eye on that. But that was quite a tricky change in wording, but it's been approved. So it's now going to be average. So you can kind of in some areas get a density of sort of 15, 20 per hectare, and then in other areas sort of up to 45 dwellings per hectare. But once again, actually, that doesn't have to be too awful if they design it in a nice way. So if you build up, if you have sort of masonettes or flats or things like that that actually mimic some of the characters of Westgate, then it's not always a bad thing. It depends on how they design it. So as you scroll down, they've slightly reduced the number of hectares of open space because they've changed their policy slightly. But this is quite important, number one. It says, so this was the corridor that we were fighting for. So it's a minimum of 16 hectares of open space to include functional green spaces between existing urban edge and new development. So they have actually kept it in. They haven't completely taken it out. It's not called a corridor anymore, but we do have a policy that we can fight for with regards to the fact that in the Thanet local plan, which will likely be signed off, there is a policy that says that there should be a functional green space between existing urban edge and new development. So that is in our favour, and I'm quite looking forward to being able to fight that one.
That's great.
It's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
So then there's a number of things. So there should be a fully serviced area for a new two-form entry primary school, which we knew. There should be a range of community facilities, including small-scale convenience retail provision for day-to-day need of residents. They need to provide 1 hectare of land for the new medical centre. So that's something that we need to keep an eye on, and we also need to input into now with regards to our ideas and how exactly that's going to happen, and how exactly people from Westgate are going to get to this new medical centre. So that's something that we've been discussing in the planning committee, and also Martin Pennington and I had a meeting with the centre manager. So they then want linkages to new and existing public transport infrastructure, including bus and railway services. They're looking at vehicular access from Minster Road and Dandelion Road, and then a road coming in between that. They need improvements to Dandelion Road and the High Street, the Garlinge Junction. So it's a lot of, they're concentrating quite a lot on that side of things, and that's because that's where they've been looking to build first of all. And then they need to input on the upgrade of Shuttendane Road. And then if we scroll down, they need to contribute to off-site highway improvements. So then it goes through master planning, preservation of Dandelion Gateway, infrastructure, surface water drainage. So as we know, we're at risk of surface water flooding around this area. So they need to make sure that they've got a policy and a plan in place to make sure that we don't get flooded by surface water. Oh, and they want an integration of the development and landscaping to take into account the public rights of way. So obviously the 2 footpaths are quite important to local people out there. So I think that's about it. So there, that is the amended policy for us. That's the main policy. So are there any questions on that first of all? I can't see everyone.
I can't see everyone because of the document thing. So what?
Should I stop sharing it?
Yeah, it's better. Thank you. It was circulated with the documents for the meeting anyway, so people should have hard copies.
So that's the update for our policy. Obviously, the whole local plan has been slightly updated as well. There are some interesting things in it, and there's some things that they need to work on over the next 6 months as well, with regards to climate change and different policies. So these are opportunities for us to be able to input on that. So if they sign it off, which they probably will have to stop developers coming in and just developing wherever they want to, which I would question is a ridiculous reason as to why to sign off a local plan. But this is the case, that if they don't sign off a local plan, developers can come in and basically develop wherever they want. So it's kind of a bully system, but it seems like whatever questions we have against the local plan, it's not, our arguments are not sound within planning law. So you can build on as much agricultural land as you want, and that's the end of it. However, I did go to the planning conference. So I went to the CALC planning conference in Lenham, which was Friday the 13th of March. And CALC has actually got together and written a letter to government to express their concern over this overdevelopment and over local plans. So I couldn't send it round to you because I've only got it in paper form, but the beginning of the letter says that it's become evident that we in the southeast, and particularly in Kent, are suffering a crisis to our quality of life and environment as a result of trying to achieve the derived housing targets set by the government. So that, you know, they're really concerned, and to actually have written a letter to all Kent MPs, this is CALC, our Kent Association of Local Councils, and they bring out the points that we have done, and things like, then they've got a 2-page document going through each point that they disagree with regards to the planning and the National Planning Policy Framework. For example, it says the methodology to assess local housing was based on 2014 ONS statistics. When 2016, which is now 4 years ago, ONS statistics demonstrated a significant decline in population projections, it was ignored, and the government stuck to using the higher 2014 statistics. So they're arguing the same things that we have. So there's still some arguments to be made, and really this methodology that was used is really questionable. However, TDC are going to be pressured to sign this local plan off, so they're a bit stuck. From a positive point of view, when they sign the local plan off, then we can start to use the policies within the local plan against bad development, and also we can start to input on some very good climate change policies, which I hope will come out.
Good.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Cornford, did you want to come in?
No, I just say thank you to Councillor Hannah Scott, Dr. Hannah Scott, for her appraisal of the document and the fact that CALC are actually supporting this, which underlines the need for us to be members as well. So that's really good news. Thank you.
Don't see any hands raised. I had a question about the timetable. You said it's likely that it will take 6 months for the changes to be introduced in the draft plan and for it to be finalised. Presumably the review of it would follow 6 months after that, so it'll be reviewed in a year's time. Is that correct?
No, I think it's been signed off by the Inspector of Sound now. What happened was that their modifications, they said, oh yeah, there's quite a few things that like we need to take into account now due to government policy changing on climate change, but we propose that we'll do that within 6 months of the plan being signed off. Do you remember that document that I sent in saying, well, you know, it's quite ridiculous to sign off a local plan with things in it that aren't up to date, but it seems like that after it's been signed off, they'll then be given 6 months to put in place other policies. Yeah, so I'm not totally sure on the exact time frame over the next couple of months, but maybe maybe we can write a letter to TDC to ask when the local plan is going to be considered. It would be nice for us to be able to speak at that meeting as well, to say that, you know, we understand that they might want to sign it off to stop dodgy development. However, you know, this plan really is against everything that we stand for in Westgate.
Well, I'd be happy to consider anything along those lines. I think it's important that we keep the pressure on, and I think there is a lot of feeling at political levels that the planning framework simply isn't working very well. We might be the biggest losers insofar as ours is just being approved, but the feedback that I've had is that there is a very strong feeling in Westminster that this needs looking at again. Councillor Matthew-Scott, would you like to comment?
Yeah, just a quick one, really, just in relation to the TDC approach. And it, obviously, we were originally planning to have these meetings in the TDC offices, but I'm one of the members who are sitting on this local plan review. No content as of yet has been given as to what we're expecting to go there and to the actual formats of that it will be online. But to give a bit of an indication, the dates that they've set out for us is the 21st of May, the 18th of June, and the 23rd of July. So I'm assuming that these will be 3 blocks to review this local plan. So I don't know, that will sort of just give you a bit of a time frame of what to expect. But if I know any more information, I'll happily get that in an email of what obviously I can share and what the content is going to be like, and if it can be for members of the public to view online or whatnot.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on the local plan? No, I don't see any requests for the floor. So thank you for that. And I'll look forward to getting that email from Councillor Matthew-Scott. Next thing is the meeting dates coming up. The immediate issue is whether to hold an annual town council meeting, the AGM we usually call it. The regulations which the government published in relation to the coronavirus crisis allow us to carry everything over, just basically to forget the carry on with the existing appointments. However, from a personal point of view, I would rather not stand and carry on as chair. I said last year that I would do it for 1 year, and I would rather stand down. So as chair, so in my view, this will necessitate an annual council meeting. For the rest, we would then have a chance to review how the committees work and so on, which I think might actually be quite healthy at this stage. Jill, I don't know if you want to comment at this point.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I mean, it would mean there's an annual town council meeting, and like you say, that would be to elect a chair, elect the vice chair, and also look at the committees. So the committee structure, you know, if there are members that want to step back maybe from a committee they're currently on, or step onto another committee, that sort of thing we can look at as well. Obviously, then in June, we do look at the standing orders, financial regulations, and terms of reference. So it all sort of falls in sequence, if you like. So if you do take that decision that you don't want to stand this year or continue, then we would have an annual town council meeting, and that would deal with the issues and the things I've just said about the elections and the terms of reference and standing orders and everything like that.
it says decision required. Do we need to adopt anything at this stage?
No, we don't have to officially adopt anything at this stage. Obviously, if a consensus that everybody's supporting that you don't want to continue for the year, which I don't think there's anybody here would be insisting that you do, if that's your, that's your decision, and everyone would respect that. So, I mean, when I looked at the calendar initially, the date that springs to mind would be for an extraordinary meeting on the 26th of May, so towards the end of this month. But obviously, we will be emailing all members with an update in due course.
Okay. Okay, so we look forward to those preparations. Now, draft emergency plan, item 11. You'll have seen the draft emergency plan, which suddenly acquired a topicality which I don't think we ever dreamt of when it was first discussed. Councillor O'Connor, did you want to take the floor on this issue?
Sorry, I was actually going to say on the last one, I presume that the annual general meeting will be in the same format as we're doing now, obviously, as we're in these times of doing it. And how would that work for, as it's a town meeting, for inviting the town? So that was the only thing I was going to ask.
Well, much depends on what's announced in the next week or so by the Prime Minister in relation to possible relaxation of the lockdown. But I think Jill had some points to make on your question.
Yeah, I just didn't want to, so we're not confusing this with the town meeting. So
okay.
This isn't the town meeting, this is the town council meeting, which is when we would elect a chair. So the town meeting is the one what we would normally have in the community centre, and we invite the public along, but this is the town council meeting. That it's the difference. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So can we move on to the emergency plan? You'll have seen the document that's been prepared, and I'm grateful to those who've worked on it, and it does, I think, lay the basis for actions to be taken in the future. Obviously, it's difficult to predict what kind of emergency might arise. I don't know if Councillor Cornford or Councillor Green might want to make any comments.
Councillor Green, do you? I would only say that this is the beginning of something that we will expand on as time goes by. Jill very kindly put it all together, but there is more to go into it, is there not, Jill?
Yes, well, of course. It's a bit like the forward plan. It's a living document, so it will adapt over things that are thrown at us, basically.
Yeah, and a lot has been learned as well.
Absolutely.
It's Are there any further comments? Sorry, I made my comments on an earlier draft, so I don't know much to say about it really.
Yeah, I've got a couple of bits to add to that. As was well put at the beginning, it's a document which we didn't think was going to actually be utilised, and it has in what is at the moment still a document which is ever changing, and I think there are plenty of lessons and items that can be added into the emergency plan that we'll have learned from this pandemic. So, as the town clerk quite rightly said, it's a live document which can constantly evolve, and I'm pretty sure it will do. But the good thing is that we've used the Kent Resilience Forum document for some of the detail in it, and I think basically we've done or until I came on board, I think there's been a lot of effort put into it, and it's something that can be kept an eye on all the time.
Where's Councillor Pennington gone? Okay, I think, have we lost Councillor Pennington? No.
Can't resign that quickly.
Where is he? Where is he? Okay. I think Councillor Page wanted to say something. I think we ought to maybe let Councillor Page say something.
Thank you, Jill. I just wondered, as part of this, would there be any intention for training in some areas for particular roles or particular situations? And presumably that would be part of the rolling plan going forward.
Yes, absolutely. So I've been in discussions with Kent Resilience Forum because I've actually done instant liaison training with Kent Resilience Forum myself previously when I was at the District Council, and it's a really, really worthwhile, you know, it's a day. It's not, you know, a week or anything, it's a day's course. And they said there is scope for local councils to actually undertake some of that training. So I would suggest that maybe 3 of us, you know, it would be a refresher for me, but it would be helpful as well for maybe 2 members as well to be trained. So definitely something I would like to explore.
That's good, thank you.
Sounds good.
Okay, right. Councillor Page looks like he's coming back into the meeting.
Did he just fall off the edge?
Start video.
Oh, there he is.
Hello.
2 minutes left.
No, what I hadn't realised was that I plugged into an extension lead, and I didn't realise that the extension lead wasn't switched on, so my battery just gave up the ghost.
Okay.
Easy done.
Sorry about that.
Okay. If I just recap.
I heard Councillor Green's first few remarks.
Yeah. And then Councillor Page raised the issue about potential training. And I explained that I have been in discussions with Kent Resilience Forum and potentially we could get some piggyback training from them.
Uh-huh. Good. Councillor Scott, Hannah Scott.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just when I read through it, it looks really professional. There's so many phone numbers that have been collated. It just looks like a really good document to be able to work from. And obviously the fact that this was being thought of before coronavirus came along, and so we actually hit the ground running as a town council. So really thanks for everybody that had that forethought, and also, you know, thanks to Jill to take it all forward and to work her butt off getting everybody organised. But when I read through the document, it looks really good, it looks really interesting, and it looks like you've got a lot of people already involved and on board with it, so thank you.
Okay, so do we need a decision on that? Well, do we approve the draft, I take it? Do we need to adopt the plan as such?
Yes, please.
Yes. So does anybody wish to oppose? Well, Councillor Cornford, is that to propose?
That's to propose that we adopt it, yes.
Good. Second? Councillor Wallin.
Okay.
Anybody against the adoption? Anybody hesitating, abstaining? No, that's fine. Thank you very much, everyone. I think it's great. It's a great idea, and I know the clerk relayed at a certain point that in one of our periodic teleconferences with TDC about the crisis, we were given a huge pat on the back by Maddie Homer for the way we were quick to react, and it's partly because this document was already being worked on. So let's pass to the last item, if we may, which is a TDC proposal for a collective funding for the COVID-19 response. I know there have been several discussions. Is Anna still there? Yeah. Several discussions on this between TDC and various councillors in Thanet, but Jill, perhaps you can give us the full background. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. So as you're aware, we've been on weekly conference calls, and the one last week was called by Madeleine Homer and the leader, Councillor Everett, and he wanted to thank all the parish and town councils for their support during the crisis, and obviously explain that the district council have got additional funding, but it's not very much. You know, from the big pot of money that the government have given, once it gets down to the district council level, it was equates to £89,000, I believe. I don't know if Councillor Matthew Scott wants to correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's the correct figure. So obviously they've got huge challenges at the moment. They had to employ extra agency staff, for instance, in the first couple of weeks because they had staff that were shielding or not well. So that money certainly won't go very far for them. So what they wanted to do was speak to the clerks at Ramsgate, myself, Broadstairs and St Peters, and the Margate Charter Trustees, just to do a proposal. They've got some ideas of 3 avenues where they can spend some additional funds, and it was just really to gauge whether or not the town and parish councils were interested in actually collaborating and putting some funds together to address some of these issues. They split it into 3 different areas. The first one was to provide essentials that are not currently provided in the food delivery packs. So these are the government food packs that are going out to the people shielding, and apparently they haven't got personal hygiene products in the packs. So the district council would like to use some funding to buy some personal hygiene products. The second area they want to explore is supporting innovative ways of dealing with domestic abuse during this emergency. And this is specific areas that are not covered by the additional central government funding. For instance, they were talking about exploring an app, which would mean that somebody that's in, a property with a perpetrator has access to an app rather than having to telephone somebody, because they might not be in a position to be able to do that safely. And the third area was to support long-term health and wellbeing projects in the district, and this is part of the recovery phase. So they said this would be very important for the emerging group C that we have. These are the people that are furloughed or self-employed and have found themselves recently in reduced incomes, and their health and well-being, they think in the long term will be impacted as a result of this. People being in debt that have never been before, and having to deal with mental health problems on top of reduced incomes. So those are the 3 areas that they want to address. Obviously they said this isn't compulsory, this is just a proposal, and that any funds that a town or parish council had available, they would greatly receive. I did speak to Councillor Pennington and Councillor O'Connor about the proposal, and we did have a quick look, me and Councillor O'Connor, at the budgets. Obviously we haven't raised our precept very much at all this year, 1.5%. So we talked about it, and because of Westgate Day, if Westgate Day is cancelled, then some of those funds that we had identified to use for Westgate Day, we could potentially use instead for this proposed funding. So we were thinking in the region of something like £2,000 would be a figure that we could propose. But I think that's everything that the district council had to say on the matter. Obviously, not every town council was keen on getting involved. Ramsgate Town Council have expressed that they are doing their own thing. They have 6 technicians that they dedicate to helping out with the transport of food and other essentials from Ashford every day. So they are already committed, quite a lot of resources and money. But yeah, so that's it in a nutshell, really. So if there's any other questions, I'll happily try and help.
Yeah, I must say I was not sure to what extent funds that we've raised in Westgate can be used for other parts. For people who want in Westgate, but I think the objectives are fine. The question is really over the funding, whether we want to chip in. Councillor Hannah Scott, were you wanting the floor?
Oh, yeah. So if it's really good that we found £2,000. I suppose the question is whether we use that £2,000 to support the charities that we're supporting in Westgate, or we give it back to TDC. So I think that's the option there. The fact that we found this money, which is brilliant, and we've got the decisions whether to take part in the TDC pot of money or support the charities that I think that we've been supporting recently.
Councillor Matthew Scott was asking for the floor. Sorry, you're sending me a... Councillor Matthew Scott, did you want to chip in?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much to echo what Councillor Hannah Scott was saying, but I mean, I think us as a town council, especially as Westgate, as the town clerk's report has highlighted, I mean, we were very much the forefront, and we were pretty much ahead of the game, already utilising our sort of community groups and getting together the COVID volunteering scheme. I mean, I feel in this time of need, as cheesy as it sounds, we do need to come together, be it towns, to actually help for the district. I mean, especially with the recovery phase, that is, I feel, going to be very strong. I mean, I work in an industry that basically utilise service, restaurants, shops, stuff like that, and the amount that have come through saying that they can't fulfill their business, and the fact that they need to now cancel that contract because they can't see themselves surviving for another period. I think this is quite important, and we can at least, you know, put something in the pot to actually help these people in the recovery, because I think that's going to be the biggest thing. If it isn't the symptoms of COVID, it's going to be people's money and worries and issues and getting back on their feet, because it's affected a lot of people across the district, especially on a business sense. So just my thoughts, but yeah, I mean, to echo with Councillor Hannah Scott, would we utilise it here or put it back into the TDC? I mean, I personally feel the district, but that's my views on that one. Thank you.
Councillor O'Connor.
Yeah, when we looked at the budget that we had for Westgate Day, we've put actually 3,000 aside for Westgate Day, and we were looking at the fact that obviously our money comes from the council in the first place. They are working hard across Pan Kent to do it, whereas we've got volunteers doing it. So as Councillor Matthew Scott has said, you know, for people that are going to need counselling or different help in that way, it would be across, you know, a TDC kind of across the board, where we couldn't, it's not enough money we have to run anything ourselves. So I think we need to take part. We said just the 2,000 because we don't know if we're going to end up costing things for driving or doing things like that. And maybe if it continues on, we may be able to help later, but the money comes from the council in the first place, you know. So if it goes back into this stream, we felt that was quite a nice thing to do, because what would we use that money for specifically within ours, and how could we do it? £2,000 is not a lot of money to run a complete service or to help people, but put together with Thanet District Councils, it could actually do something.
Thank you. Councillor Cornford.
When you say that the money's come from the council, the district council, is that not, it comes from our residents as a town tax, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Route, at the route. Is there no way that we can request that our £2,000 is directed at Westgate residents? I know, as you say, it's not a huge amount, but can it not be earmarked for Westgate along with any other money from district to safeguard our residents' town tax? because our residents have actually paid that money originally. And there will be many people in Westgate who, as elsewhere, who are, you know, they find themselves in an unprecedented situation. Can we request that at district? Can we request that? Can we say, yes, we're happy to take part in this collective funding, but we need to support our own?
I don't know. I mean, the only thing I could say is that we identify people, and if they've got, this is just a for instance off the top of my head. So for instance, if we found out that we've got 20 people that need counselling and it costs £20 a session, you know, we could put that money perhaps and pay for it so the council doesn't have to pay for that. That's the only way I think it could. We can't say you can just earmark so much, but it might be that we pay for certain things off into it. I don't know. I think that's something for Councillor Matthew Scott to take back to the district and see if there's a way of doing it that way or another way.
I feel we should explore the idea, definitely.
Yes, I mean, we have been working with Lifeboat, who are based in Westgate and can offer those kind of services very easily in Westgate. Councillor Hannah Scott. Go.
Button, sorry. Yeah, I mean, I think that for public perception, am I muted or am I unmuted? Can you hear me?
No, you can go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I think for public perception for our residents, I'm not too sure if they're going to be happy with us saying, right, because we didn't have Westgate Day, we've got £2,000 spare and we're going to give it back to TDC. I think they might want some kind of, you know, different thinking around this. So I'm really not too sure about just giving it back to TDC. It needs to be allocated for Westgate residents. And if we can give it back to TDC because they've got some kind of plan, and we can say, you know, in that plan, X number of people from, you know, Westgate residents would be put first with that £2,000, or we give it to the Lifeboat charity that we know of, you know, more for the Westgate area in itself as well. So I think for public perception, we can't give it back to TDC.
No, I have to agree with that.
Anyone else want to intervene? I must say that my own view is that I think each tier of government, of local government, should work at its own level, and for us to be sort of contributing from our funds to something that TDC is doing is not consistent with the way the system is designed. And I share a bit the views that people would find it strange that we were taking money that had been planned for Westgate Day and using it for something else. Having said that, I think the objectives are quite good, you know, the system. Councillor O'Connor, I think, and then perhaps we'll vote. No, sorry, Jill.
I think Councillor Matthew Scott asked before me.
Oh.
Hello. Yeah. I mean, it's just quick. I'm trying for the life of me to actually find the report here. But I mean, to my understanding, this is going to be, it's not going back to TDC to use willy-nilly. I think it's going to be specifically to use for the response for the COVID-19 operation. I mean, I'll happily go away and ask the questions, and I can work alongside the town clerk, who obviously has those weekly meetings, and we ourselves get our own team briefing. I mean, we did have some information today, small as it were, about what they're going to be their proposed plans for how they're going to be looking to deal with the response side of COVID-19. But obviously, I mean, we're waiting for what the government are going to say this weekend in regards to how they're going to be looking to relax the lockdown. So I think everyone's waiting for that particular weekend now to see where we're going as a nation, so it can slowly break down to what's happening for obviously the local governments. I mean, yeah, obviously I understand that as a town council, we are to always look out for our own residents. I think it might just be seen as a just thing to say that, look, you know, we care amongst everyone. But I mean, obviously there's a decision to be made. I can go away, ask some questions, and perhaps maybe we can, well, yeah, I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Right,
Well,
so
I take it that's a proposal to defer the decision, is it?
well, I was going to actually say it looks like, I mean, because we're not, it looks like that everybody's in agreement that we use the money that we're not spending on the on Westgate Day, the £2,000 that we've shown, to do some sort of, to put it into some sort of charity to help with this COVID, you know, 19 crisis and the outcome of what that might happen. I think the decision is whether we, you know, put it in towards a bigger pot, or whether we look at something ourselves for doing it, which it would possibly alleviate the bigger pot by doing something. So I don't really, I think that, you know, it sounds like everybody's happy for that money to be earmarked for helping in some way.
Well, I'm not 100% sure about that. Councillor Matthew Scott again.
Yeah, just come back then. I mean, I agree with Councillor Connor. I think, I personally feel there's a general consensus to utilise that money for a response. I will go away and ask the questions, possibly see what TDC plan to do with the donated money. And obviously we can sort of defer the set aside money for what we want to do, if that sort of works. So opposed to, well, I don't know, it's, I mean, here it's a decision made on the actual TDC. So I've lost all my post stuff. Technology, that's great.
Clark's asking for the floor. Chair.
Thank you. Yes, because I don't have a hand because I'm the host, so it doesn't allow me to raise a hand. Basically, I have got a conference call with TDC tomorrow morning, so I can certainly feed back the comments this evening, and we can, you know, ask for further details, a bit more clarification. I can even suggest that, you know, we might want to potentially earmark some of it for Westgate, or, you know, in the community, and see what the reaction is there. So I'll happily do that for you tomorrow.
Mm. Yeah.
Yes, Cornford.
Yes, I think that's a good idea. We should defer the decision and, you know, wait for some more information, as Jill's discussed, as Jill's indicated.
Okay. Councillor O'Connor. Oh. Sorry, the mic's still mute's still on.
Still on? Yep.
Yes.
Okay, fine. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, can you speak now?
Yeah. We've obviously, if we want to do it ourselves, we've identified the lifeboat, you know, part of it. So is there any other things that we could identify as well, and then put that to the vote, so we could put all the things in together and say this is what we would like to put our money to? So, you know, what other things in Westgate could we support in that way?
Councillor Hannah Scott. Can you unmute her? Sorry, Joe. There. Okay.
I'm muted. Can you hear me? Yeah. I mean, we could kind of just go halves down the middle and say we'll keep £1,000 for the lifeboat charity or whatever Westgate charity, and give £1,000 to TDC if we wanted to make a decision. I'd say that could be a proposal. I'd propose that.
Well, we've got, let's take note of that suggestion, but I think I would tend to stay with Councillor Matt Scott's offer to go back, get some more information, and also Jill in the teleconference tomorrow, and come back. I mean, it may, you know, as we've said, it may be that in the next few days the government will announce something, some more funding one way or another, which might change the picture. my own view is that I'd rather go with that. I don't think for a lot of the the medium-term recovery, certainly, I don't think we need to take a decision today. I think it's something that we will be looking at in a couple of months' time. Does anyone formally? I think I should ask if anyone wants to second Councillor Hannah Scott's suggestion. Councillor Cornford.
Yes.
Councillor Cornford.
Yes, I think for the purpose of the agenda, we should at least agree that we are happy to contribute our Westgate Day money, and at a future date. I think for the purpose of the agenda and making a decision, that we should now take a vote on the fact that yes, we are in agreement with using these funds to help with the result of the pandemic. How we do that, we decide in the future.
Well, that wasn't at all Councillor Hannah Scott's proposal, as I understood it. She was proposing we give 1,000 to Lifeboat and 1,000 to TDC.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, in that case, sorry, no. I think we should find out more information, but we should at least all agree here and now, for the purposes of the agenda, that we are happy to use that money. But that's just my view.
Okay. Anybody else want to chip in on this? Councillor Page.
I do agree that we should seek some more information and have some clarification. Overall, I think that we need to plan for the aftermath, because it's going to be difficult for a lot of people. But I think we should get some more information from TDC and feedback from the discussions that the town clerk is going to have, so that we can think it through a little bit further. I mean, on the one hand, it's good that some money has been identified that could be potentially made available, but I feel we should consider our people first. But this is a shifting sand at the moment, and more information offers a better opportunity to make a judged decision.
Okay, thank you. Well, my own feeling is we should wait and see, but if people feel a vote now on blocking that money for use in the COVID-19 context will be useful, I can go along with that. I think I will let that through. Nobody seems to... Okay. Councillor O'Connor.
Yes, I'm happy to earmark that and wait to a decision to see exactly where it's going. Okay. But I'm happy to say that. I'm proposing that. Well, I'm second actually what Councillor Cornford has said. So yes, I agree. That's what she said, that we are agreeing that we've got that money to put to one side. However it will be used will be decided when we get the information.
Okay. Anyone else? Sorry. Well, we've got a proposer and a seconder then, that we allocate £2,000 from the money that was earmarked for Westgate Day to something to do with COVID-19 measures, and that we would explore further what to do with it. Councillor Green, did you want to intervene? No, okay. So is anybody against that reallocation of funds? Does anybody wish to abstain? That's me. I wish to abstain. All those in favour? Yes, everybody in favour, apart from that. Good, thank you very much. So that's the end of the meeting. At 8:24, I make it.
Yeah.
Councillor O'Connor.
I would like to give my thanks to the office and to Jill in particular, how everything has been run in this time. She's worked absolutely like a Trojan to coordinate everything and coordinate us all into doing the various things, taking on our skills, taking on the fact whether we've been working, whether we haven't, whether we've been isolating, making sure that we go to in with agreements that we keep with protocols so that we're all safe and we're keeping our residents safe by making sure that we're working in pairs and that we have got DVL checks and everything, not DVL checks, but DVB checks. So it's been a mammoth task that she's organised. You know, just getting the prescriptions out, let alone any shopping that's been done. I just would like to say a huge, great thank you, and we wouldn't have been able to do it without her. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Hannah Scott and then Councillor Cornford.
I was just clapping. That was clapping.
Was that the same Councillor
That was the clapping single for Jill.
Thank you.
We can do this. Clapping.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, so can I close the meeting now?
Yep.
8:25. Thanks very much, everybody. That went really smoothly. Thanks for your understanding and support. I'm sorry I went off screen for a few minutes.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Well done.